In the previous episode, we saw how Leping confessed his love to Elizabeth, and she also confessed her feelings. The two shared a heartfelt kiss. Up next, Leping, feeling happy and excited, prepared breakfast for Elizabeth. He made a heart-shaped omelet with some noodles and served it to her, urging her to eat. However, upon seeing the breakfast, Elizabeth sensed something different from the usual. In addition to its rich magical aura, there was a mysterious feeling she had never experienced before. Leping blushed and asked, "Really?" Then, he quickly told Elizabeth to eat before it got cold. However, in his thoughts, he felt embarrassed, wondering, "Oh no, was my special love meal too corny for Elizabeth?" But as soon as Elizabeth took a bite, her eyes lit up with excitement. The mysterious feeling she sensed in the breakfast was none other than Leping's love. He had poured his emotions into this special meal for her. Seeing Elizabeth suddenly fall silent and lost in thought, Leping grew concerned. "Is breakfast not to your liking? Did I mess up the seasoning?" To check, he took a bite of the noodles himself. But as he ate, he didn't notice anything unusual until he realized that he and Elizabeth were eating from the same strand of noodles, connecting them together. Both of them started blushing in embarrassment. However, instead of pulling away, they found the moment quite intriguing. They wanted to take it a step further. As they slowly leaned in, about to kiss each other, bang! The door suddenly swung open, and Holy Sword Alpha barged in. "Leping, do you have anything for me to do?" he asked. Their intimate moment was ruined. Elizabeth, furious at the interruption, summoned her demonic hand and punched Alpha, sending him flying out of the house before slamming the door shut. Still fuming, she grumbled, "That broken sword, ruining our moment." Leping, feeling embarrassed, quickly suggested, "After breakfast, how about we watch some TV?" However, he was secretly worried. "I have no experience in dating. How do I deepen our relationship from here?" Elizabeth, still blushing, nodded in agreement. Later, the two of them sat together in the main hall, watching TV on the sofa. As they watched, Leping hesitated, wanting to hold Elizabeth's hand, but unsure how to do it without her noticing. However, just as he was about to make a move, Elizabeth quietly pulled her hand away. Leping panicked. Did she notice? He started overthinking. "We confirmed our relationship last night, right? But Elizabeth is a demon. Was she just teasing me?" He glanced at Elizabeth, who was casually sipping her orange juice, looking completely relaxed. Confused, he thought, what if I'm just overthinking? But everything that happened last night felt real. While he was lost in his thoughts, Elizabeth suddenly took his hand, surprising him. She looked at him and asked, "Do you have any questions?" Leping quickly shook his head. Elizabeth then leaned in, resting her head on his shoulder, making his heart race even faster. This was the first time he had experienced something like this. Elizabeth then asked, "In your world, what do lovers usually do?" Leping explained, "In my world, when two people are in love, they usually eat together, go out together, watch dramas together, and so on." Elizabeth, not particularly impressed, tilted her head and said, "Isn't that what we already do?" Leping scratched his head, realizing, "Now that I think about it, yeah, we do." Elizabeth smirked and said, "Then think about something that only lovers can do. You and I should try it too." Leping, suddenly nervous, stammered, "Well, that depends on the progress of the relationship. Usually at the beginning, couples hold hands like we're doing now." Elizabeth, upon hearing that holding hands was just the beginning, leaned in closer and said, "I want our relationship to go further." Leping swallowed hard. "If you want to take our relationship further, isn't that what we did last night?" Just as they were about to kiss again, knock knock, Holy Sword Alpha suddenly knocked on the window, calling for Leping. Elizabeth's face turned dark with rage. "That broken sword! He better have a very good explanation this time." Holy Sword Alpha, visibly scared, quickly told Elizabeth, "I didn't mean to disturb your time together. It's just that someone was watching you." Sword Saint, Annie, Uncle Bruce, and Elfie had come to meet them. Leping was overjoyed to see everyone after such a long time. He prepared some snacks and invited them to sit in the garden. Curious, he asked, "Why have you all come here so suddenly?" Annie replied, "Yesterday I sensed Sister Elizabeth's magic in the demon realm, so I came today to check on it." Could it be that they discovered I opened the nine-headed dragon treasure dungeon without permission to test Raphael's actual combat skills? If I had failed, the consequences would have been devastating. Sword Saint nodded in agreement with Annie. I also sensed the magic of the Demon King, so I came here as well, awaiting your orders. Uncle Bruce added, we also felt the same energy. That's why we thought it was time to report to Mr. Leping and Lord Demon about the growth of the sacred tree. Hearing their reasons, Holy Sword Alpha sighed internally, feeling envious of those who were sent on missions abroad. Unlike them, he was always stuck performing important tasks beside Brother Leping every day. However, Elizabeth looked at them coldly and said, I didn't ask you all to come here. I suggest you leave immediately. She was clearly irritated, not wanting any more interruptions in her quality time with Leping, but Leping smiled and reassured her, they don't have to leave in such a hurry. Now that everyone is here, I'd like to discuss the current situation outside. After hearing this, Sword Saint spoke first. Following your advice, I resumed training at the Sword Saint Guild and shared my knowledge with others. Recently, there has been little news of the Dark Guild, except for a few infected monsters occasionally appearing to cause trouble. However, they aren't a serious threat. Annie agreed. Yes, although I don't know why, the Dark Guild seems to have suddenly disappeared. Even when I ventured deep into the demon realm, I couldn't find any trace of them. Leping was pleased. It's great to hear that the Swordmaster Guild accepted Miss Gigi, and it's even better news that the Dark Guild has vanished. Elfie then spoke up. The Elf tribe has also implemented a new policy. We've abolished hierarchy and established external connections to build an intelligence network to resist the Dark Guild. Holy Sword Alpha, however, didn't seem impressed by their achievements. He smugly added, last night I helped Brother Leping collect protection money to solve our food shortage for the next week. After listening to everyone's reports, Leping took a deep breath and looked at them seriously. I have an important announcement. Everyone grew slightly nervous, wondering if another mission was coming now that they had all grown stronger. Elfie thought to herself, don't be afraid. With my father and me working together, we have the advantage. The elf tribe is strong. Meanwhile, Annie had her own suspicions. Is this a competition? Brother Leping wants us to challenge each other? The fall of the Dark Guild must have been part of his plan. Could there be an even greater enemy ahead? Holding Elizabeth's hand, Leping finally declared, Elizabeth and I are together now. A silence fell over the group, not because they were shocked, rather because they already knew. It wasn't surprising to anyone that the two were in love. Leping, confused, looked around. Aren't you all surprised? I mean, the hero is falling in love with the Demon Queen? Annie and Sword Saint exchanged glances. Through telepathic communication they thought, I get it. What the hero means is that we must rely on ourselves from now on and stop disturbing them. Annie agreed. Indeed, from the treasure dungeon to the experiences in the elf tribe, if it weren't for Brother Leping and Sister Elizabeth protecting me, I don't know how many times I would have died. They trained me so that I could become strong enough to protect the brave continent. I can't always depend on them. It's time to stand on my own. She then looked at Leping and said, if you have anything else to say, just tell me. Although Sword Saint had shouldered most of the responsibility in fighting against the Dark Guild, it came at a price, signing a contract with the Dark Sea. If she hadn't met the Demon King, who helped her break the curse, she would have already caused a disaster. Now, the brave man had taught her the true meaning of swordsmanship, but she still doubted her abilities. Will this be enough to face an even more powerful evil spirit? She wondered. With determination, she confidently told Leping, I, Chichi Saugus, will do anything for you. On the other hand, Mr. Bruce and Elfie, though agreeing with Leping, were still worried about what had happened in the elf village. The noble phantasm card had fallen into the hands of the Dark Guild and had nearly destroyed the entire world. If Leping and his companions hadn't arrived in time, the consequences would have been catastrophic. Now, they were preparing for a new, powerful mission, and Leping had made it clear to the Demon King that he would not participate. Are we really sure about this? Mr. Bruce thought anxiously. Leping, still smiling, looked at everyone and said, I have a favor to ask of you all. However, if you find it difficult, You don't have to agree." Upon hearing this, everyone grew tense and nervous, fearing that their cowardly thoughts had been seen through by the brave master. Elfie, feeling embarrassed, thought, "Without Mr. Leping's grace, my father and I would have been nobodies. We have to do this, even if we can't." Leping then revealed his plan. "I'm planning to go on a trip with Elizabeth," he announced. Sword Saint, curious, asked, "You're going on a trip?" Leping nodded. "Yes, I plan to visit the kingdom of Aristotle and try to convince them to join the alliance against the Dark Guild. Only by doing so can I truly fulfill my responsibility as a hero, and only then can I live my life in peace. As a legendary hero, this is all I can do. I just hope everything goes well." Elizabeth, deep in thought, suddenly recalled something. Leping is still continuing his plan to support the 4 kings under his command. But one thing I don't understand. What does he mean by living a good life? Then, suddenly, she realized, previously, I was blinded by my desire to win and misunderstood him. I thought Leping was merely toying with these ignorant mortals, flaunting his strength before me. But in reality, ever since our first adventure together, he had already planned for our future. Her face turned red in embarrassment as she understood Leping's true plan. Determined, she declared, "Since this is the last step, I'll personally take action. If they refuse to comply, I'll destroy their entire kingdom." However, Leping quickly stopped her. "Don't be impulsive. Let me handle it," he said gently. "I promised you that this time, it's my turn to restore peace and order to this world. While my plan does involve using your reputation in the end, if we rely on violence now, everything will become meaningless." Elizabeth blushed at his words, then nodded. "Fine, I'll do as you say," she agreed. Just then, little Annie excitedly said, "Leping, I have a request. I want to go with you on your trip to the kingdom of Aristotle. I can now control the red demon eye, so I can definitely be of help." Before Leping could respond, Chi-Chi smirked and added, "I know the best way to enter the kingdom of Aristotle." Seeing Miss Chi-Chi's confidence, Annie clenched her teeth in frustration. Even though Miss Chi-Chi resigned as president, she can still use her connections. Meanwhile, Uncle Bruce and Elfie promised that no matter how difficult the task was, they would see it through. They had General Blanchett from the elf tribe to manage and protect the sacred tree in their absence, so they had no concerns. However, Leping shook his head and clarified, "There's been a misunderstanding. The favor I wanted to ask has nothing to do with the kingdom of Aristotle." Elizabeth, irritated, crossed her arms and said, "What's the point of all of you wanting to join in? Let me make this clear. Whoever ruins my mood will bear the consequences." Noticing Elizabeth's growing frustration, Leping smiled at her and said, "Why don't you go inside and rest? I'll explain everything to them." Elizabeth, uninterested in their affairs, agreed and teleported back to their house. Once she was gone, Leping turned to the group. "What I actually wanted to ask," he began, "was if you know of a hot spring." Uncle Bruce blinked in confusion. "Hot spring? That's your big request?" Elfie hesitated before asking, "Would the healing spring of the elven tribe be okay? We could heat it with Balrog magic if needed." Leping shook his head. "We've already been to the elf tribe. I'm afraid Elizabeth won't be interested. What I want is a natural hot spring." Annie then spoke up. "I know that the volcanoes in the demon realm often release hot springs. With a little development, we could turn it into a proper hot spring. Though the area is dangerous, it wouldn't be a problem for Brother Leping and Sister Elizabeth." Upon hearing this, Leping agreed. "Yes, that kind of place," he said, nodding. Then he turned to Annie and asked, "Can you help me clean it up and set up a spa area? I want to surprise Elizabeth." Miss Chi-Chi agreed but was a little worried. The volcanic area was near the ruins of the Demon King. She wondered, could the hero be hinting at something? Meanwhile, Uncle Bruce had his own thoughts. The meaning of cleaning up is obvious. The new evil spirit that Mr. Leping wants us to deal with must be there. He turned to Miss Chi-Chi and said, "We will also participate with all our strength." Miss Chi-Chi agreed. "If we all work together, we'll be more confident in handling it." Leping smiled. "Okay, then it's settled. No rush, we still have a month." He thought to himself, 1 month anniversary of falling in love with Elizabeth. Let's celebrate with a hot spring trip. Miss Chi-Chi confidently assured him, rest assured, we'll definitely get it done. After that, Leping returned home and bid farewell to everyone. Once he left, the others breathed a sigh of relief. Then Uncle Bruce spoke up. In a month, the evil spirit will descend near the death volcano in the demon realm. The brave man and the demon king won't interfere, so we'll have to handle this ourselves. Miss Chi-Chi agreed. That evil spirit might be a life form from another world within the dark sea. I'll compile and send you all the details soon. Annie, deep in thought, recalled how Red Demon Eye had sensed a mysterious power stirring while she was training in the demon realm. For Elfie, however, it was a fortunate situation. At least we have a month to prepare, she thought. By then, I'll have broken through to the Demon King level. Holy Sword Alpha, puffing out his chest, confidently declared, "Did you all hear that? Brother Leping is only bringing me this time." But before he could finish, Elizabeth used force transmission, teleporting everyone out of the house. She then grabbed Leping's hand, pulled him into the room, locked the door, and smirked. "Finally, no one is here to bother us anymore," she whispered. Leping, slightly flustered, asked, "What's the matter?" Elizabeth blushed and leaned closer. "We'll continue what we didn't finish before, something that only lovers can do." Without another word, the two shared a long, passionate kiss. 1 week later, Leping and Elizabeth began their journey to the kingdom of Aristotle. However, Leping did not look well. Over the past week, while doing housework, Elizabeth would grab him from behind and demand his time. While he was working, she would teleport in front of him and distract him. Even while taking a bath, she refused to leave him alone. And at night, she climbed into his bed, insisting, "From now on, I'll sleep with you." Leping, exhausted, asked, "Aren't you used to resting in your own space?" But Elizabeth simply smiled. "I don't care. I'll sleep with you from now on." Because of this, Leping had barely gotten any rest, and his whole body was aching with fatigue. Finally, he reached into his pocket and took out a dolly pill. Seeing the packet in Leping's hand, Alpha curiously asked, "What is that?" Leping replied, "It's a pill I made using herbs from my garden and Chinese medicine recipes from my bookshelf." As soon as Leping took one, his entire body felt refreshed. His exhaustion vanished instantly. Seeing this, Alpha immediately asked, "Can I have one too?" However, Leping refused. "You're still a child, and you're also a sword. Who knows what side effects you might experience?" Elizabeth, watching from the side, smirked. There really is no end to Leping's secrets, she thought excitedly. Just by being in a closer relationship with him, I was able to break through to the demon god level and reach the saint level. If I raise my strength a few more stars, it will be time to take Leping one step further and create the strongest sun. Both she and Leping laughed, secretly thinking about their own plans. Meanwhile, Holy Sword Alpha, watching them from behind, muttered, "Ever since that night, they've been acting more and more alike." However, Wang Chai warned him, "Be careful what you say. It's a rare opportunity for the master to bring you along. Don't do anything stupid and ruin their mood." Miss Chi-Chi soon arrived, accompanied by a dwarf-looking man. "We've reached the dwarf kingdom," she announced. From here, she introduced her friend, a dwarf, who would guide everyone through the dwarf country.